Cheers and good on you, boys and girls. This episode is meant as a tribute and kind of a a discussion, or how I can kind of get I don't even know what to say, honestly. For the first time, I'm probably speechless. But my father-in-law passed away this just a couple days ago, and I'm recording this as like an honor and as a tribute to him. And by the way, I'm not wearing sunglasses to be cool. It's really bright out here, and I was trying to find the right angles where I could do this, and everything led to the sun right now, so that's why I'm wearing sunglasses. But I'd have to say one of the hardest things I've had to experience was seeing my wife and crying so hard that she's out of breath, and then knowing that there's nothing I could really do for her, other than be there for her, of course. So for those people, this is a dedication to Doug, for the people that knew him, for the people in his family, my wife, his ex-wife, the mother, who is the mother, obviously, of his children, and to her brothers, Adam and Jason, to my wife's brothers, Adam and Jason, who are, I'm married into a family, of course, but sometimes that goes so much deeper than, there's people who are blood related and they don't get along, and there's people who are married into families and they don't get along, but they honestly are my brothers, and I just feel so connected to them, especially now more than ever. And my sister-in-laws, they're my sisters, and so to Kelly, to Amanda, to all of us that were together this week, and again, to everybody out there, people who I don't know who were either related to Doug or friends of Doug. He was a good person, and it's hard. So this is certainly meant as a dedication to Doug. I got to say too, one of the best things, and this isn't self-promotion in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I tend to think, the little self-esteem part of me always tends to think like no one likes me or likes my show or likes things like that. But I know like he was one of the first people every single time I posted a show. He was one of the first people, if not many times the first person, but one of the first people to respond to the show every time and say, like, he either wrote back to me and wrote like sweet or nice or awesome, like every single time. Like, and again, if he was not the first, he was one of the first. And so that always meant a lot to me. And I say this as a joke. So when I say this as a joke, believe me, it's a painful joke, but it's something, I say it because I know Doug would laugh at this. So I'm saying this in respect to Doug, but knowing that Doug would laugh at what I'm about to say. It sucks that now I'm losing a subscriber. And again, I'm saying that as directly to Doug because I know that would make Doug laugh, and that's why I said that. But it does suck because I've had people tell me over the last week, like, he really genuinely did like my show. And, and again, I don't know if he maybe liked it because I'm his son-in-law or if he genuinely liked it. But either way, that meant a lot to me. And I know he did listen because we would discuss the shows. And so, again, it sucks losing someone that's kind of in your corner. But yeah, the hardest thing I had to deal with this week was just seeing my wife uncontrollably cry where she couldn't even get her breath, and again, knowing I couldn't do much for her, and that's hard, and I guess this probably hit me within the last hour. Everybody who listens to the show knows how attached I am to my daughter, and that's how it should be, of course. I love my daughter, and I keep thinking at the time of in my daughter's life when she has to do that, when I have to leave. And I hope that's the case. And what I mean by that, quite obviously, is, you never want to, as a parent, you don't want your children to go before you do. So I hope I go before my daughter goes. And, but I know that if that is the case, and we are that lucky one day, and hopefully it's many, 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 many years from now, I put myself in my wife's shoes in that respect, thinking like how painful it may be for my daughter, and it's tough. It's tough to think like that, and it is a circle of life, and it's an unfortunate, death is an unfortunate part of life. And that's, that's an obvious statement, of course, but it's sometimes I'd have to say, in fact, not even sometimes, most of the time, we take life for granted so much. And I spend a lot of time, people who do listen to the show, I spend a lot of time always discussing and talking about getting upset over, like, someone cuts you off in traffic, and, like, so what? Does it really matter? And I can say right now, where I'm at in my thought process, in my heart, like, no, those little stupid things don't matter. I've talked to my wife so many times these last few days and just said, we've got to live. We've got to live. I want to take away anything in my life, and I've been saying this for a while, but now I'm doubling down big time. Like, where, if there's something in my life I'm not happy about, I want to eliminate it. I want to get out of my life. If there's something like my arm, people have heard me talk about, I've got like tennis elbow, and I like lifting weights. If you look back on some of the Facebook live shows, like, I got to a point where I was really getting jacked up and really getting happy with how my arms were looking, and then I had this injury in my arm, and it's been 4 or 5 months now, and I kind of been putting it off, but I've not been able to lift weights either. And so, although I'm thin, I still work out. I'm not built like I was, and I want to be like that. So I need, I'm like, okay, my neighbor across the street, she had tennis elbow, she had to get surgery on it. I texted her last night and I said, hey, where'd you go? Can you give me the doctor's name? And I'm going to call that doctor, and I'm not going to sit on it anymore. In other words, I'm not going to sit on things and if there's something I don't like, instead of just dealing with it, because I can't even squeeze toothpaste with my right hand right now. Damn, there's a bee right by my head. right on live camera here. You get to see me. Get out of here. Get. If I get stung on camera, that could be a good show. It could be kind of funny. And that would be Doug. That would be humor by Doug. That would be Doug just getting a shot in on me while I'm recording the show. But yeah, I had to put myself in my wife's shoes, or kind of like how my wife was feeling, and it's painful. It's painful to think like that, and I also had to think, like, there's a time when, most of the time when a girl gets married, and she's got kind of two men in her life. She's got her dad, and then she's got her husband, And right now, as, I think about my daughter, there's one man in her life, one primary man. I mean, of course, she's got grandparents, and, but unfortunately she's down a grandparent now, but there's kind of like side men in her life. But for the most part, that sounds a little awkward, but you know what I mean. I'm the main man in her life. But eventually, she probably will get married, and then I may have to take second stage, and there's going to be two men in her life. There's her dad, and then her husband. And then eventually, so I guess the weird responsibility, like I said, I came up with this like an hour ago, is like, I'm the only man, I'm the primary man in my wife's life right now, and that's a huge responsibility, and I take that seriously. And I let my wife know, I'm going to protect you all the time. I'm always going to look out for you, and you never have to worry about anything. And I knew that, I've said that to her dad before, to my father-in-law. Like, I will protect your daughter. I will take care of your daughter, and you never have to worry about anything. And he took great comfort in that. So, I generally love my father-in-law, and I know he generally loved me, and not only liked me, but he loved me too. And I know that, and he's expressed that, and I felt the same way about him. And I don't know if I've got a story here connected to the show. In fact, if you look back on not on every episode I've done, but if you look back on almost every podcast I ever did, now those weren't visual, those were all audio, but certainly the Facebook live shows, depending on where they were, and then if you look back on even I just started this YouTube channel, but if you look back at the YouTube channel, the test shows, and then a couple of the live shows, like I'll give you an example, episode number 3 of this actual podcast, there was a Superman statue holding a flag. My father-in-law bought me that. And here's the odd thing. I had it up on episode 3. In fact, I think this is how I was filming it. And the Superman statue was back on one of those pillars. So it was in the background. But if you go back to episode 3 and you look, you'll see it. It's small because it's back there, but it's there. And it was a windy day that day. And I got done filming, and almost immediately after I got done filming, the wind knocked it off and it broke into pieces. And I was this close to throwing it away. And I thought, well, that's the end of that statue, you know. But my father-in-law bought me that, and he mentioned that quite a bit. Like, I like how you have that Superman statue with the flag. And I couldn't even tell him. Now, keep in mind, this happened, and then I think it was like a day and a half later, he was rushed to the hospital, and everything took place. He was unresponsive, and then unfortunately passed away. Thank God I didn't throw it away. I have it, but just to show you, I mean, I have the statue, but it broke. It's in pieces right now. These are the pieces of the statue. This was prominent on, you couldn't see it visually because of the podcast. I didn't record them visually, but on many Facebook live shows, if you go back and look, and if you go back and look on a few of these episodes, this statue put together was in the background. So now I'm going to fix this statue. I'm going to put it back together, and I'm going to make this, it's making an appearance even on this episode, but in pieces. But like I said, I was this close to throwing it away because I thought, well, that was it. And then I'm so happy I didn't now because, like I said, it was like a day and a half later, my father-in-law passed away. It's almost like a weird sign, like that broke, and it's almost like, hey, something's going to happen to your father-in-law. You know, that might be reading too much into it, but that broke. I've had that thing for a few years. He bought it for me as a Christmas gift one year. Been very prominent on most of my shows, and then it breaks, and then he dies, you know. So yeah, it's sad. We have to be reminded that life goes on, and that's what I'm reminded of now, and that's the sad part. That's the part that hurts, is like my wife's still helping with the arrangements. I came home last night, and I'm going to go back out there tomorrow for the service. And it's weird getting back into like a routine. Like I'm without my wife right now. I miss her and my daughter terribly. They're both together. And I wanted to bring my daughter home with me and get her back to school. My wife said she needed her there with her, and I had to take care of some responsibilities here, so I'm doing that. And but it's weird how I'm doing my route. It's like, even though someone passes, life goes on, and that's kind of a hard pill to swallow. That feels weird, you know. It's like it's almost like all of life stops when that happens, when someone passes, but then you realize, no, it doesn't. Life is still moving forward in that circle of life, and things still keep going, and there's that routine, and there's that pattern, and that's sad, you know, but that's reality. That is reality, is that life goes on, and you never know when things are going to end, and you got to do the things you want to do now, and you can't wait, because you never know when that day is going to come, you know. And I as an example, I was watching Netflix last night. Now, we have a shared account with my father-in-law, and I saw his emoji, and I was so tempted to go over and click on it, and I wanted to see what he was watching, what kind of 80s booby movies he was watching. And that's a joke, and again, that's because I know he would laugh at that. And I haven't been able to do that yet, but I want to. And I kind of want to look and see what he watched, and then go back and watch them on like our emoji, our account, and maybe get into his head a little bit and see the boobs he was going to see. Again, a joke to my father-in-law that's meant to make him laugh. But I saw that, and it made me sad. I saw his emoji, and it made me sad, you know. He and I were both, and by the way, not just he and I, his daughter to an extent, and definitely his sons, my brother-in-laws, definitely comic nerds and geeks, and we were into that stuff big time. In fact, he was known to my daughter as Papa Batman, you know, so he was a big Batman fan, and we got to talk geek stuff a lot. You know, what's cool about it too is, like, not only was he a good dad, a good father-in-law, but he was like a friend too. He was a buddy. Like I could talk to him about stuff. Like he got as weird and as stupid as my humor is, and immature as my humor is. His sons, his daughter, he like we all. You should see when we would all get together for like Christmas time and family events. It was non-stop laughter. It was cut after cut after cut of people just joking at each other and laughing, and a lot of farting going on. And I know, again, this is something he would laugh at. He would laugh at that, you know, and that was his favorite times when we were all together. And he would always thank me every time, like, when we were leaving, I'd give him a hug, and he'd say, thanks for bringing my daughter, my granddaughter out here, you know, and I'd be like, of course, And I know that meant a lot to him. And then he would instantly, like, post on Facebook, and he would post about how, you know, he was so happy to be able to look into the living room and see his whole family together, and that's what makes him happiest. And I know it brought him immense joy to see everybody together. It really did. You know, on a sad, this is all sad, of course, but on a real sad note is, you know, Doug. One thing about Doug, and this is hard to say, but it's an obvious truth. You know, he didn't take very good care of himself, and it was hard to see that, you know, and I wish he did. And I know over the last few days, his sons have said, like, this is their wake-up call, and they're going to take it seriously. And the reason I'm even bringing this up is because I talked to Doug many times I talked to Doug's many times, and some of the times my wife doesn't know about, the brothers don't know about, but I talked to Doug quite a bit about, like, hey man, you got to get healthy. You got to take care of yourself. You got to lose some weight. You got to, you know, we want you around. I'd say, like, my daughter, your granddaughter, loves you, and she wants to see you get old. She wants to have her Papa Batman around, you know. And the one thing that I regret, and I say this again painfully, but I think all of us, we were too light on Doug. And we would be like, no, he's doing all right. And he would just kind of say, I'm doing better. And we would just kind of leave it at that. We didn't hit him hard enough, metaphorically speaking. We were too passive with him. We were, you know, and that's not, it's not our fault, because you can't make someone change. But I feel there is a slight part of guilt. Like, I do a success show, and it's more than a success show, but that's a big part of it. I'm really big on mindset, you know, and I wish, instead of us more or less talking like, you know, hey Doug, how you doing? You know, yeah, I'm doing fine. I'm losing weight. I'm eating healthier. All right, good. But then, like, behind the scenes, he'd be like, he's not doing good. You know, he's not. You could tell I remember telling my wife so many times, and again, I say this with such pain. You know, I don't say this with pride in any way, shape, or form. Like, I would say look, 1 + 1 = 2. In other words, Doug's not going to live a long life if he doesn't take care of himself. And I'm saying this to her brothers in particular. Like, please let this be your wake-up call. Your dad was a good man. He had a great sense of humor. If I had to say, I could say so many things about Doug that I loved, but damn, if that sense of humor wasn't on, like, he just hearing him laugh all the time, and he wasn't like what I talk about all the time, like not being offended. Like, he wasn't the offended type. He was like, he'd get in there and laugh and make jokes and have a good time. And you know, so now's the time, everyone. Like, and this goes out to anybody who might be listening. This is kind of a personal episode, but listen, you know, I reach an audience of people, and if you're sitting on something and you're saying, I should, knock off the shoulds. You're gonna should all over yourself. Stop it. Like, stop shoulding on yourself, and start taking action, because you're gonna talk and you're gonna talk and you're gonna talk, and the next thing you know, unfortunately, you're gonna end up with what happened with Doug, you know, and I don't want to see that. And I can say, like, what I did say, and I'm saying it publicly so we can hold more people responsible. So to Doug's sons, to my wife's brothers in particular, you know, I'm gonna provide tough love, and I want the strong emphasis to be on the word love, because I do love you guys, and I don't want to see you in 20 years dealing with the same thing. You know, Doug was only 56 years old. He's a young guy, 56. And this could have been prevented, and that's what, it breaks my heart. You know, I told my wife a few times, like, he's not going to see his 56th birthday. And there's no ego about that. I wish to God I was wrong. Now, I was wrong. He did make it to 56, but his birthday's in June. I was only wrong by 3 months. And like I said, 1 + 1 = 2. You can look at certain things and go, this is not leading to a longevity. You can't be that big and live a long life. You just can't. The math doesn't work that way, you know. So I'm saying this as a plea and with so much love, but to you know, tough love. Like, get it together, okay? And this goes out to everybody, and to people who are listening and maybe who didn't know Doug, and you're just hearing an episode. Take a reflection of your life and look at the things that, look, I'll speak personally. My wife's and I finances we got to get stuff under control. Instead of just talking about it, we got to do it. Like, enough talk. You got to start taking action, you know, and got to budget properly. So just stop talking and start doing. That's a huge one. If I had to make a lesson out of this, listen, I'll put it this way, I don't want Doug's death, like, it should mean it should mean something. His death should mean something. And if it has to be like someone who's listening right now, look to whoever you are, like, take this personally. Even if you didn't know Doug, but especially if you know Doug, if his death is meant to count for something, I'm speaking to you right now. Use this as your wake-up call to do it now instead of continuing to put it off. Make his death count. Make his death mean something, okay? Again, he's a great guy, and it's sad that he's gone, and he will be missed. And like I said, the hardest thing I had to deal with was seeing my wife crying so hard. I've never seen her cry that hard before. Of course, I've seen my wife cry. She cried hysterically when she said, "I do." She looked at me and said, "This is what I got to be stuck with," and she started crying hysterically. Doug would have laughed at that. So that was painful, you know. I don't like seeing my wife hurt like that. I love my wife, and so Doug, wherever you are, I want you to know, like, I will take care of your daughter, and we love you very much. And Doug's favorite song was "Just Breathe" by Pearl Jam. And I mean, this is a picture of Doug if you didn't know him. I don't know how much is going to show up in the camera with the sun and everything. But this is a good man, and he went way too soon. Yes, I understand that every life must end. Uh-huh.